You know what really gets me going? Data comparisons. Ah yes, hello friends, welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. As always, I really do hope that. And yes, welcome back to Chelsea News, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my thoughts, feelings and opinions on it, but more importantly, as always, asking for yours in today's video. We are going to do some data comparisons, so the super fun, sexy part of football, yeah? And what can I say? It was very, very interesting. Spoiler, it's going to have a winger comparison, a Chelsea winger versus a non-Chelsea winger. It's going to have, what's it going to have? A goalkeeper comparison, two Chelsea goalkeepers. Maybe you can guess who that is there. And indeed, strikers. It's going to be hopefully illuminating for us, as well as some Chelsea news. Now, Sky Sports transfer news football correspondent Kaveh Solikolis said a bunch of stuff about Chelsea. We're going to ramble through his long post on X. Clearly, he's been briefed by the club. And maybe we'll do a little bit on Kobbie Mainoo. He's going to leave Man United in January. Maybe Chelsea are going to go back in for him, so saith some reports. So we'll see what happens there. So, it's gonna be a great video. It really is. Strap yourselves in, get comfortable. If you want to support the content, you're welcome to. Just drop a like, subscribe if you dig the content, hit the bell if you think you'll be returning and want to be notified. So thank you for liking and subscribing. And yeah, let's start off with what Kaveh Solikolis said on his very long Twitter X post. So, Chelsea have no current plans to sign a goalkeeper or centre-back in January. They will also not be signing a goalkeeper next summer. Sorry, I'm in shock. Chelsea have three goalkeepers: Robert Sanchez, Philip Jorgensen and Mike Penders, who are regarded as being good enough to be their established number one. Pause, stop. Even though there's this continuing recurring theme, this narrative that Rob Sanchez is going to ascend to greatness despite already being in his late 20s, and putting that aside, Penders, yes, he's supposed to be the second coming of Thibaut Courtois. Spoiler, we look at him later in the data comparisons. Why is Philip Jorgensen, he's done very well to wriggle his way into seen as good enough to be Chelsea's number one. Is that what they've told him? Look, to his, in his defence, he too is a young goalkeeper. I think he's like 23. He's not like Penders young, but he's doing very well to be nestled within that group to be seen as good enough as Chelsea's number one. Let's move on. Robert Sanchez is an exceptional shot stopper, and he won the award for best goalkeeper at the Club World Cup. Wow, this does stink of briefing. He made a good start to the season, and despite his red card at Man United, he's cut down the number of mistakes he has made. Pause! Okay, I've got to stop you there, Kaveh, mate. We've only just hit the second international break, and it's being like, well, despite that catastrophic what's going on with the hair here, mate? That's better? You're basically saying, well, you know, except from that really high-profile mistake at Old Trafford in a game you absolutely should have been winning in a must-win game, a huge gargantuan mistake that condemned your team to failure and loss, and we're still at the beginning of the season. Apart from that, he's cutting down mistakes. It's kind of like saying, apart from that, did you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? That kind of thing. Look, I'm not always continually trying to do the whole Rob Sanchez hate train thing. I think he is a good goalkeeper, by the way, and the stats would dictate that in many regards, but the mistakes continue, they will continue, therefore he cannot continue, in my opinion. Philip Jorgensen is still also a highly rated goalkeeper at the club. He was a transfer target for some of the biggest clubs in England in the summer. Mike Penders has also been impressive form at Strasbourg and has been receiving some rave reviews for his performances, which have helped his side climb to third in the table. Yes, indeed, I have not been speaking enough about Strasbourg. This is the Chelsea channel. They are not Chelsea. They are a different football team, so I know many of you won't be interested, but some of you are. They've been doing incredibly well under Liam Rosinia. Of course, they're in a European campaign now as well in the Conference League. They are the third most expensively assembled side in Ligue 1, behind Monaco and Paris Saint-Germain, of course, and their place would represent, their positioning represents that. But they are also a very young and inexperienced side, so to be performing at the level, it's still really impressive. They deserve a great deal of credit, so I know they've got problems with their ultras at the moment. I sort of try and cover it every now and again, but it's not really for me to speak as a non-Strasbourg fan. It's a delicate situation. C'est très difficile, hein? But yeah, Penders is doing very well, and to be honest, he's the guy. Spoiler, we do a comparison with Penders and Sanchez later. There you go, I've said it. Stick around for that part of the video. Chelsea were offered the chance to sign Milan goalkeeper Mike Maignan in the summer, but decided not to pay the asking price because they had faith in Sanchez, Jorgensen, and Penders. I do get it. The only way I'd slightly take that argument is Mike Penders. Again, you guys know me. Had it been my decision, I would have bought Mike Maignan, bridged him for a couple of years to get Penders in. And of course, when we saw the red card at Old Trafford from Sanchez, we were like, there he is. There he is. You know, what's the point in like ruminating in the past? Let's look forward into the future. But before that, let's continue with Sovacol's post. Chelsea also have enough options at centre-back, and that is why they are unlikely to sign any players in that position in January. The challenge is to keep the players they have fully fit. Of course, Trevoh Chalobah, Tosin Adarabioyo, Wesley Fofana, Benoit Badiashile, Josh Achampong are all high-quality centre-backs, and Levi Colwill is set to return from injury later in the season. And of course, Yorel Hato and Reece James can also play at centre-back, and Chelsea have 2 centre-backs out on loan who are expected to return next summer in the form of Mamadou Sarr and Aaron Anselmino. Yeah, when you say it like that, it's a lot of centre-backs. But people like me, I was like, damn, we need that starting left centre-back to send us to the high level we were at the end of the Club World Cup with Levi Colwill. That's why I was like, bring me Mark Gurhey. I was very, very firm on that. But they list off all these goalkeepers, centre-backs, and you kind of understand, okay, there's a lot to sift through there. Also, I must say, I haven't checked in on Aaron Anselmino at Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund on his loan, which is a great loan, by the way. He had a really good debut. I'll have to check back in at some point and we can touch on that. Maybe we can do literally like a little quick segment on the loanees, who's doing well. Sounds like a lot of work for me, but maybe we'll do that. Point being, there's a lot there, and at the moment I feel a lot better. Look, you guys know me, I love Wes, I love his profile, I love his style of play as a defender. He's back in full training, that was reported this morning on the 8th of October, which is great. Will he return to his full glory, or at least achieve his max potential? I'm not sure. I don't know. But to be honest, at the moment, with the likes of Josh Achampong, he looks like he could just slot in and be excellent. I mean, he did that against Liverpool, an array of different plethora of attacking talent in Liverpool's team. He sort of stood up to it very, very well. So I would be very comfortable with seeing Josh Achampong be given more chances at the Chelsea. Chelsea did look at the possibility of signing a centre-back in the summer, and the only high-quality option available, of course, was Dean Howson, and he, unsurprisingly, as a Spanish international, decided to go to Real Madrid. From Bournemouth, Chelsea are working to find clubs for Raheem Sterling and Axel Disasi in January. The players are keeping fit, and it's also up to them to agree a deal which may materialise. Real talk, I'm surprised Axel Disasi didn't get a move, because he is highly rated by many clubs, and I thought he'd be more agreeable to just going to a Ligue 1 club or, a different Champions League club in Europe. Maybe he was a bit too picky. I wonder if now he'll be like, yeah, just give me these options, I'm going to pick one in January. Whereas, as always, with Raheem Sterling, it seems like an impossible task, which is frustrating, and it is on him, because he had the options to go to both the Italian champions, Napoli, to play for them and play with people he knows, like De Bruyne and McTominay and, Billy Gilmore. Don't know if he knows Rasmus Højlund, but he could speak English to them. Conte speaks English. Amazing option. Bayern Munich, yeah? Harry Kane and Vincent Kompany. He's your old teammate. You won titles with them. Everyone speaks English in Germany, and they're an amazing team, Bayern. They could win the Champions League, they're going to win the Bundesliga again. The fact how he said no to that blew my mind a little bit, but the truth is, it's his decision, he gets paid big money by Chelsea, we just have to take the L ultimately, and learn for the future. Which you'd like to think they have learned, because they've gone low age, rather than signing Raheem Sterling and giving him 325k a week or whatever it is. Mistake learned. Lesson learned, mistake made. You know what I mean. Tyreek George is likely to leave in January. Multiple Champions League clubs and Europa League clubs wanted to sign him in the summer, and he came very close, of course, joining Fulham on deadline day. George is viewed predominantly as a winger, and Chelsea already have Pedro Neto, Stava Willian, Jamie Gittins, and Alejandro Garnacho, and of course, Giovanni Kenda is moving from Sporting Lisbon next summer. Mark Yu will be staying at Chelsea for the whole season after his loan, and of course the loan at Sunderland was cancelled. Right, well, I want to see Mark Yu play centre forward much more than I want to see Tyreek George play centre forward. Now, Tyreek is of course a great young talent. He's still 19, a teenager? Very, very young regardless. Great talent, highly rated. You can see it there by loads of Champions League and Europa League clubs wanting him. High profile player. He deserves to go and start every game. He's a good professional, he's a good lad, he's a good talent, and he probably doesn't start for Chelsea in any way, does he? Let's be real, in any situation he's not a starter for Chelsea, so he should go and be a starter somewhere. He certainly shouldn't be a starter as a striker for Chelsea. Not for me. So it's good that Mark Yu is staying and will play. That obviously him featuring the other day poured cold water on they're not going to play him till January because they're going to loan him out. That conspiracy's gone. He's staying at Chelsea. He's going to play. And broadly, I'm happy about that because I do not want to see Tyreek George there. I am starting to think Joao Pedro plays better. It's slightly withdrawn. So it's good news, generally. Right then, before we look at these data set comparisons, which is fun, stick with me. It's enlightening. You'll like it. I'm going to quickly jump over to this article by Team Talk, speaking about Kobbie Mainoo in January. Of course, Kave Solikol said, Chelsea aren't going to sign a goalkeeper or a centre-back in January. He didn't say anything about a central midfielder. Not that we need one. Let me get that in early. But of course, the story of Kobbie Mainoo won't go away. So Dean Jones on Team Talk has spoken about Kobbie Mainoo and how perhaps either Tottenham or Chelsea could rescue the Man United star in January. He of course wanted to go in the summer on loan to get some playtime so he could be part of Thomas Tuchel's England squad. And he's still not being utilised. Now look, from the player's perspective, yeah, of course, Manchester United a bit of banter team, first and foremost, off the bat. Secondly, he started a European final for England, if memory serves, under Southgate the last time, so he's being utilised, he's used to being high profile, and now he's not even playing, he's getting sort of like sympathy minutes at the end of games in a really dysfunctional side in Manchester United. Now, he will look at other players, I don't need to list them, there's loads who have left Man United and been very, very happy, and he'll think, I fancy a bit of that. Now we know there's a really strong bromance between Kobbie Mainoo and Cole Palmer. They're really good friends from England camp, they just clicked and they're just good mates. Does that mean anything? Almost certainly not, but Cole will probably be like, come to Chelsea. Garnacho, who's yet to score assists, but probably feels like, yeah, this was the correct move. He wanted it. Of course, we've seen the pictures of Garnacho in Chelsea kits as a kid. So genuinely, I think he's probably quite excited with the move to Chelsea, coming to London, seeing the team around them is all very young and talented, more so than Man United in terms of developing together. This kind of stuff's attractive. Kobbie Mainoo might be thinking the same thing. Now, do I think Chelsea should sign Kobbie Mainoo? No, it's weird. It makes no sense. Especially when we've got, Andre Santos, who can operate in similar ways. Especially when we've loaned Facundo Buonanotte, who's, that kind of playmaker and clearly the sporting director / Enzo Maresca light. They've obviously looked at enough data with him and said, yeah, he's going to fulfill that role. It makes no sense. It would be a market opportunity. The same way Garnacho was. They'll find a way to fleece Man United again. It doesn't matter. Banter, market opportunity, everything aside, makes no sense to me. And what do the kids say this day? #no to Mainoo. Great player, by the way. Amazing player. Just absolutely needless transfer signing. Right then, we're going to have a bit of fun here, and I'm going to show you some data comparisons courtesy of datamb.com. Like I said, we're going to do goalkeepers, wingers, and then a pair of strikers. A pair of each of positions, starting with the goalkeepers. Take a look at this. So, this is the comparison between Mike Penders of Strasbourg, and of course of Chelsea, and Robert Sanchez of Chelsea. Now, also these stats in front of you don't take into account red cards that ruin 3 points, which of course would be a big minus on Rob Sanchez. Sanchez, of course, 7 years older than Penders, is playing in a harder league, and on this graph here, you can see the blue line represents Penders, and the pink-red line represents Sanchez. Penders has a better save percentage, and Penders is much better at passing. Done! Surely that's it, right? Passes, long pass percentage, short pass percentage, way better than Rob Sanchez. Rob Sanchez is better than aerials. One, he does come out and claim balls now, to his credit. Interceptions, he's good, he runs out. That's obviously something that good goalkeepers in the Prem need to do now. That's something that Penders would have to learn to do. But generally, in terms of the bread and butter of the modern goalkeeper, making saves, making passes, Mike Penders does look incredibly good. This, of course, is very similar minutes, both just over 600 for the season, so it's a good sample size. We will, of course, watch Penders throughout the rest of the season, but maybe as time goes on, if he does have a great season, it could be like the next Courtois situation, although he won't be replacing Petr Cech. It'll be a lot easier, it'll be replacing Robert Sanchez. Again, good goalkeeper Sanchez, just not for me. Shall we move on? Let's move on. Right, here's a fun one. Wingers. Now, Noni Madueke went to Arsenal and he's had a relatively good time in terms of his general play. As you can see here, he's the blue line on this graph and new Brazilian teenage sensation, Estevão, is the red line. Now, as you can see, Madueke is good at dribbles and carrying. Now, Noni was probably behind Neto in the pecking order at Chelsea because Neto was in good form at the end of last season and indeed the Club World Cup. You know, there was an argument he was one of our top sort of 2-3 players. So Noni was thinking, right, well, I'm not starting over Neto, and probably he was thinking about this kid Estevão, who of course is 5 years his junior, coming in and Chelsea potentially trusting him. Turns out Chelsea do trust him. He's only played 32 minutes less than Madueke this season, so it's a decent sample size for each. And as you can see, his stats blow Madueke out of the water. Less minutes, much better numbers, and much better non-penalty goals and assists expected, of course. Much better non-penalty goals. Much better assists, key passes and crosses. As you can see, Estevão blows Madueke absolutely out of the water here. And, you know, we got 52 million quid for Noni Madueke. I think after all the add-ons are potentially realised, he could be 60 million euros for Estevão, which is about 52 million quid. But the base fee is much less. It's like 28 million pounds that we've paid so far. You know, 5 years younger, it's worth the comparison here. Because he's not even our starting right winger at the moment. Neto is, and for good reason. Seniority, defensive work, understanding of tactics. No rash decisions, but when you need that just flair, that amazing raw talent, that sort of ability, in comes the, you know, Messinho. I know he doesn't like being called that anymore, but you know, the superstar. Bit of a cheeky one because Madueke is gone, but you know, it's an illuminating comparison there. Right, let's end on 2 Chelsea strikers, but one is currently playing at Bayern Munich. Yes, so here we go. This is a little bit more interesting. Joao Pedro versus Nico Jackson, both 24 years old. Now, this is very interesting because Nico has got a much higher non-penalty expected goals at the bottom right of the graph there, or the chart, wherever it is. As you can see, Nico gets into goal scoring positions, but he is still underperforming his non-penalty goals. Where if you look at Joao Pedro, he's outperforming, not underperforming his expected goals. So basically, Joao Pedro is a better finisher. And this is highlighted by the conversion percentage on the bottom left. As you can see here, when he shoots, he scores way more than Jackson. The problem is with Joao Pedro, he's been in no positions to take shots lately, and that's a huge problem. That's why we need to maybe play him off a striker, so he's in better shooting positions. What really blows my mind as well is, obviously he's got a better expected assists. That doesn't necessarily surprise me. He wins way more duels and wins way more aerial duels. He's got a 92.8 win percentage in the air. He doesn't seem that big, Joao Pedro, but he is amazing in the air. And of course, Nico Jackson is only 55.3, which actually is very, very poor. I found this comparison fascinating because to me it says Joao Pedro is a better finisher, he's a more accurate finisher, he's stronger in the duels, he's more creative with expected assists, and he's much better in the air. Did I just say that? Anyway, he's got all those better things, but he's scoring less because he's just nowhere near the goal taking shots. That's the problem for Joao Pedro. He does take shots. When he was playing with Liam Delap, he was like, thank you very much, you hold them. Oh, there's a space, I'm going to take a shot, lovely jubbly. He's not taking a shot in so many games, basically, so he's not, even though he's overperforming his XG, it's so low because he's in no shooting scenarios. So I wanted to show you that. I found it interesting. Hopefully you did too. Right guys, we might do more of that moving into the future and other videos, different comparisons, because like, you know, this is old school Jan content. This is Jan the stat man for some of you OGs out there. So I might be bringing a bit more of that in. But let me know what you thought of today's video. Thank you as always for joining me and supporting the content, for liking and subscribing. And I hope to see you back here soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, bitch.